المنتجبين واح العالمين له الفداء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فإذا اطمأننتم فأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Dear mu'mineen and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts in this month of Ramadan and help us gain the status of Sa'imeen in this month, inshaAllah. And when I say Sa'imeen, it is not referring to the ones who are physically abstaining from food and drink. Yes, that is one level of fasting. However, that is not the level of fast that is meant to help us achieve the taqwa. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Taqwa is not achieved by simply abstaining from food and drink. It is attained and obtained by being conscious of our duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in what we do. Not to abstain from food and drink for the sake of a cultural thing that we do or a physical thing that we may be thinking of, rather for the sake of gaining nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the absolute perfection, al-kamal al-mutlaq. Coming back to our discussion, just a quick summary. We started from last year's topic of asceticism and detachment, detaching from dunya and all the things that chain us down, because dunya and the aghlal and the chains of dunya keep us down and do not allow the soul, the nafs of the nafs of insan to ascend. It keeps it down. And oftentimes we get mixed and we think that I am the body that I am. It is not the body that we should identify ourselves with, rather it is the vehicle. The body is a vehicle. In fact, we are the nafs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored. وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا. He swears by it. He honored it. He says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We honored the children of Adam, and the children of Adam are honored. Adam is honored. In fact, Adam ala nabina wa alayhi salam became a subject of prostration of all the malaika after the blowing of the ruh in him. فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. Not for the physical body that he was, rather for the ruh. In other words, the nafs is what deserves focusing on. And if nafs is so significant, and I want to use another analogy before I come to tonight's discussion, if, as we are told in the hadith, a mu'min is more honorable than the Kaaba. And I want you to think about that. Mu'min is more honorable than the Kaaba. We have a hadith. If a mu'min is more honorable than the Kaaba, and a mu'min is honorable through his iman, not the action. Please focus with me. The mu'min is honorable in his faith. Faith resides in the heart, not the physical heart. It is not the action that determines a mu'min or identify him. We may attribute certain actions to mu'mineen, but that's not what determines whether or not one is a mu'min. Iman is in the qalb, in the heart. If a mu'min who is more honorable than the Kaaba, and Iman is through the heart being pure, because that's what determines a mu'min. His heart is sincere for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, establishing that state of pure nafs, of Iman, is more valuable than building the Kaaba. Do you agree with me? The analogy. Mu'min is more honorable than the Kaaba. Making a mu'min requires purification, self-purification, tazkiyah, to become a mu'min. That is more significant than building masajid and a Kaaba and anything. Anything structure-wise. Believe it or not, the Kaaba was destroyed at times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders His anbiya, one of them from Ulul Azm, and one is the father of or the great-grandfather of our messenger, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ibrahim wa Ismail. وَعَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ أَنْ طَهِّرَ بَيْتِيَ لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. I'll come back to this رُكَّعِ السُّجُودِ inshallah tonight. Purify it. Not establishing in the physical sense. Part of it may require certain physical establishment. But the reality is the spirit of it, the ruh of it. And that is what makes us realize how significant it is for us to purify. If we can build ourselves build our nafs, bina, build our nafs to be amongst the mu'mineen, it is more valuable in our hearts, in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, than building a structure. You can build a structure any day. It is money, comes and goes. But building a human is what matters. Building a mu'min is what matters. How do we do so? First, I said we detach from dunya. Recognize ourselves. We discussed this already. Recognize who I am. Who am I? To understand that I am not the body that I see. Ascend above the body. And then, step by step. Last night I mentioned that this journey of purification is not so complicated. It is not so easy either. But it's not complicated. It's not sophisticated. It does require hard work. But it does not require so much theory. In the sense that you don't have to go and do a course of Irfan Nazari, theoretical Irfan, and learn about all the different methods and Sayr suluk and so on. None of that is necessary. It is simple things, simple steps, which we read in the Quran, in fact, and in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The first one, and I said, one of the best ways is to set yourself a 40-day period. Try and get a 40-day period for purification. Because often when you get into a certain habit, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when you get beyond a month and it becomes 40 days, this is the ayah that I shared. that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ. We made an appointment with Musa 30, then we completed it with a 10. فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ. That the appointment became complete. Tamam is completion, perfection. 40 layla, 40. If we can try this 40, of what? Starting with this month of Ramadan. I said the first and most important thing is abstain from sins. Al-wara' an maharimillah. This is the best action in the month of Ramadan. When Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhi asked, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He said, Ya Rasulullah, ma afdalu al-a'mal fi hadha al-shahr. What is the best thing to do in this month? Pray too many rak'ahs, do several khatam, whatever it is. The Prophet, he says, the best one is to stay away from sins. Purify your body, your limbs from sins. Even the mind, one step ahead. Even the mind not to think of sins. Not to allow your mind to even enjoy the idea of sins. Entertain the idea of any sins. That's the first step, which is not a small step. However, with realizing what the reality of sins are, it becomes easier. I shared with you, a sin is like najasa. It makes the heart najis, impure. It basically pollutes the heart. The heart with sins get polluted. It becomes a heart, imagine the water when it's polluted with something, with ink or blood or whatever it may be. You can't see through it well. The heart is the mirror for the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A'inah. If it's polluted, you can't see through it. It will not reflect the right thing. Oftentimes people ask, why is it that certain things that are haram are enjoyable? Perhaps certain parties, perhaps certain music, perhaps certain foods even. People ask. And the answer is it is not that they are beautiful or enjoyable or nice. It is the fact that our mirror, our vision is blurred. We don't see the reality of it. The reality is nothing nice about it. The reality of it is such an ugly scene. But when we see it with a blurred vision, with a heart that's polluted, we cannot see properly. زَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَعْمَالَهُم. Shaitan beautifies those actions. Otherwise the heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He has made Iman beautiful. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانَ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. He made Iman dear to you and ornamented it in your hearts, beautified it for you. وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ. He made you detest any kind of disbelief, any kind of transgression, any kind of disobedience of the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He made it this way. So what happened to us? Why don't I hate sins? It's because my heart is polluted. Why don't I love prayers? It's because my heart is polluted. Dhikr, is there anything more beautiful than dhikr? Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu al-qulub. Hearts find tranquility and peace. We often run in life searching for peace, inner peace. And we get lost. Why can't I find peace and tranquility in salat? I pray my salat so rushedly. There's hardly any concentration in it. Salat is dhikr, wa aqim as-salata li dhikri. This is the next step I want to share with you. On the one hand, abstain from sins. On the other hand, wajibat, the peak of it. Tonight's step I want to share is salat. The best, in fact, form of purification and ascension to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is salat. Abstain from sins first, then salat. Why do I say salat? Hajj, you do it once in a lifetime. Sawm, you do it once a year. And there are people who become pious in the month of Ramadan. I'm not disqualifying that. But in the month of Ramadan, they come and pray and fast. The rest of the year, they may drink. And you know what I'm referring to here. They may go to parties of drink and so on. They sit on tables where they serve alcohol. They may the rest of the year, they do a lot of things. But in the month of Ramadan, it is the month, after all, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chained the shayateen to help us. So in the month of Ramadan, perhaps many of us get to do more good deeds. However, the ayah that I shared earlier, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Nisa, referring to salat, He says, فَإِذَا اطْمَأْنَنْتُمْ, when you have a little bit of peace, that you can pray properly. Not the Salatul Khawf. Prior to that, it was a situation of war. Therefore, Salatul Khawf, فَإِذَا قَضَيْتُمُ الصَّلَاةَ فَاتْقُوا. It was referring, the ayah before that was referring to how you pray during the war situation. In any case, he says, فَإِذَا اطْمَأْنَنْتُمْ, when you find peace, then establish the salat. So you want to establish the salat for further peace, for finding that inner peace. Establish the outer peace first for salat, then salat for the inner peace. He says, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Salat is written upon the believers as a timed obligation. It is every time throughout the year, no exemption from salat. You're traveling, except if you're not conscious. If one is not conscious, fine. Traveling in the plane, in the train, in the ship, on yachts, some people go to these cruises and whatever. Out of a sudden in the cruise, you can't pray, can you? How can you pray? Some people may think in that way. I'm not saying, no, we have to pray. Can I pray and watch the sins, not the scenes? You see the difference? You can watch the scenes, not the sins at the same. You can't mix ma'siyah with ta'ah. In any case, salat is not exempt at any time, any place. Mawquta, and it's timed. If we do not enjoy it, it's because the mirror, the heart is polluted. So first, my brothers and sisters, let us make a covenant in this month. Let us make a pact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I want to abstain from sins, clean the heart, istaghfir, seek forgiveness sincerely. And then next step is improve in salat. How do we improve in salat? I want to give you a few hints, and inshallah we'll finish as it is approaching time for iftar. Improve in salat, I'm not referring to quantity, although that may help in some situations. Improve in salat, I am referring to quality. The only quantity that I would share tonight is the quantity of jama'ah. One of the ways of improving in salat is to try and pray it in jama'ah. the rewards of jama'ah versus furada is something you cannot compare. One rak'ah of two people doing jama'ah, two people only, one imam and one ma'mum. One rak'ah equates to 150 salat. Not 150 rak'ah, 150 salat in the hadith. And that basically goes to a square root with every person added until we get to the 10th person. After that, nobody knows the rewards of it, not even the angels except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how significant it is. Oftentimes I look, alhamdulillah, the month of Ramadan and the ni'mah and the rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, jama'ah increases. The rest of the year, once a week we get together here and pray jama'ah. Do not miss that. Do not underestimate that. Even if you don't gain anything, let's say the speaker is not good enough, and the company of some people is not the best. You make up any excuses that you can think of. You're not making it actually. Most of the time shaitan is making it, except for the speaker perhaps. Any excuses you can think of, bring it up. Just Salatul Jama'ah. If you can just achieve one Salatul Jama'ah, it is worth it. It is well worth it to gather and pray Salatul Jama'ah. Don't underestimate it. That's one way of improving in the Salat. And again, my topic is not Salat. My topic is Tazkiyatun Nafs. Salat is not the end. Salat is a mean. Don't think of Salat as the end target. I just want to pray. No. Salat is a path. Through Salat, I can gain qurb ilallah. The intention of Salat is what? Qurbatan ilallah. We do the intention. نويت أن أصلي, whichever Salat I'm praying. Wajiban, for example. Qurbatan ilallah ta'ala. For nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First improvement in Salat. Jama'ah. Even at home. Husband and wife pray Jama'ah. Children with their parents pray Jama'ah. Somebody leads and the rest pray Jama'ah. The second improvement in Salat is in concentration in Salat. The meanings. It is sad that in this information era that everything is available. Some people pray, yet they still don't know the meanings of some of the adhkar of Salat. Whether it be the surahs that we recite or the adhkar that we recite throughout the Salat. Sami'a Allahu liman hamidah. What does it mean? Or do I pay attention to it? First is let's know what it means. Second, let's pay attention to what I'm saying. Of course, Sami'a Allahu liman hamidah. Of course, He hears those who praise Him. So I'm doing the praise and I'm acknowledging that He hears. A reminder for myself, so He is hearing me. That is why there's a hadith that says whoever prays and does not ask after his salat, فَلَمْ يَدْعُنِي فَقَدْ جَفَانِي. He is undutiful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the hadith says, وَمَنْ دَعَانِي وَلَمْ أُجِبْهُ فَقَدْ جَفَوْتُهُ وَلَسْتُ بِرَبٍّ جَافٍ. He says, whoever calls upon me, I don't answer them, then I am being undutiful and I'm not an undutiful Lord. SubhanAllah. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, when you finish salat, don't rush. It is time for you to do dua. I tell people, don't even talk to anyone. Don't even turn away. This is time for you to ask. Ask. One of our scholars used to say, "Dallal." Have a little bit of dalal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a term, I don't know what the best translation would be for it. when you are you're speaking as a close friend to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please give me this. I'm doing what I can. Not that we are trying to say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have minna on you, that we have done a favor. Nothing that we do is a favor to Him. Nothing will benefit Him. But I'm trying to be obedient. Do this for me, Ya Allah. And ask for good things, important things, big things. So focusing in salat. The third one I want to say is the timing of salat. In the month of Ramadan, one of the barakat is most people end up praying, at least we'll come to Maghrib, huh? Maghrib prayers on time. Why? Because no matter what you're doing, you want to break your fast. Inshallah, they pray and then break their fast. That's the better way, the Imam says. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked, he said, if you are, and this is good to learn, if people are waiting for you, some people can't wait for salat. If people are waiting to eat and they would wait for you before they can start eating, and you're delaying them from eating, therefore eat with them and then pray. Otherwise, pray first. Prayers come first, and then we go and do our iftar. This is Maghrib and Isha. In the month of Ramadan, most people end up praying Fajr on time, or many people. Why? Because you have to eat suhoor, and after suhoor you end up praying on time. The problem is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين. He says, make sure you are dutiful, you protect the salat, especially salat al-wusta. Most of our mufassirin, although some they try and say it's fajr because it's between day and night. However, the wasat al-nahar, salat al-dhuhr and salat al-asr, or at least salat al-dhuhr, what happens to it? It always gets sacrificed. Because of work, it gets sacrificed. Because of whatever else, it gets sacrificed. In this month of Ramadan, let us, and this is a reminder for myself and all mu'mineen and mu'minat, let us improve in our salat in every aspect, including and most significantly the timing. Pray on time. Make sure salat has a priority over everything else. Before anything else comes. Inshallah, through that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us in the path of purification. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this month of Ramadan to help us purify ourselves and gain closeness to Him, qurbatan ila Allah. We ask Him to make us amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin